Nous allons retrouver Kevin LADD aux États-Unis, grand spécialiste de l'étude de la prière. Il enseigne près de Chicago et nous allons évoquer avec lui son parcours et ses liens avec l'Université de Lausanne. Kevin LADD, hello.
Hello.
It's a great pleasure to join you near Chicago. What was your reaction when you were informed that you were receiving this title? Have you been celebrating already?
I was actually quite surprised. Professor Brandt had contacted me quite a number of months previous to that, and I had sent him the requested material, and was it had sort of fallen off my level of awareness, and so it was an incredibly pleasant surprise. In terms of celebrating, we weren't able to actually be in Lausanne at the appointed evening, and so my family, my children and my wife, actually prepared a celebratory dinner, and they included pictures of the other awardees and Professor Brandt and the rector of the university, and placed them around the other end of the table, so everyone was there to celebrate, and we had a festive dinner.
You are a big specialist of the studies around prayer. I would like to ask you, as a first question, what is your most surprising discovery in your researches?
I would say the most surprising piece is that as we talk to people who have been members of active congregations for many, many years, that well over 50% of them indicate that this is one of the first times in our research protocol that people have asked them what they are doing when they pray. And they report that they just have not talked directly about the practice of prayer until it is part of a research program. And that I find that quite startling.
We have here a question of our Dean of Faculty, Jack Ehrenfreund.
Yes, Kevin, congratulations. What do your researchers say about the practice of prayer on an international scale? Are there huge differences between Europe, the USA, Asia? What could you say about that?
A number of years ago, we actually conducted a study across 7 or 8 different countries, as disparate as India and China, and across Europe and the US as well. And one of the things that we discovered there is across both the different countries and across the different predominant religions in those countries, is that people understood what others were doing, and yet they still had very distinct ways of engaging prayer. And so, for instance, some forms of prayer, such as a petitionary prayer, a asking for something for oneself, was not very well regarded in European or in US practices. It was seen as too assertive and too aggressive. However, in other countries, for instance, in Ghana and some countries in Africa and other places in the world, the idea of petitionary prayer is very natural. And they utilize scripture and pull a particular passage that says, if you do not have something, it is because you have not asked for it. And they see that as a very natural sort of a form, a way of engaging prayer. So people understand the different ways of praying, but different nations and different traditions have different profiles of what they consider the optimal forms.
What can you tell us about new trends? Can we say that new generations have new religious practices?
Certainly. One of the growing edges in terms of the research are 2 sort of facets. One of the first facets is the sort of moving from an organized kind of religion to a more personalized sort of a structure. This is frequently captured by the language of a movement from religion to spirituality. And as that takes place, what we find is that people become more reticent to utilize some of the well-established language of prayer. So, for instance, the Lord's Prayer or the Our Father, people become less comfortable with that and they want to create their own text. The second sort of a form that is an interesting development is the idea that it moves even a step further than that. And we're encountering more and more people who say that they are atheists, but they also engage in prayer. And that is a very wide open field for additional research to figure out exactly what that might mean.
Let's talk about collaborations between Lausanne and your university.
We have already a lot of exchanges and collaborations with you, and you have a lot of connections to the UNIL. Will the title, the DHC title, help to intensify them?
I certainly anticipate. I'm actually missing a meeting or two there that we were hoping to have specifically on the topic of drawings of God and the ways in which those manifest themselves across different traditions. And so I anticipate and certainly hope that that kind of collaboration will continue to blossom, as it has for quite a number of years, working between myself in particular and Professor Brandt.
Let me ask you two personal questions, Kevin Ladd. Do you pray?
Yes. Actually, for the last several months now and into the foreseeable future, I've been actively working in a local congregation. Our local clergyman was suffering from a form of cancer and needed someone to step in and help to lead the congregation. And so I've been serving in that role as well.
I also know you are a big David Copperfield fan, and you are much into magic tricks. Is there a link between prayer and magic?
Oh, certainly. There are many different ways in which one can think about the topic of magic in particular. My own approach there, and actually I would amend your statement there, and Harry Blackstone is actually the magician closest to my heart. And if I were to move the camera slightly, we would be able to see a variety of artifacts from his show here in my office. The primary link that I see between them is that in the performance of magic, every time the curtain opens, the performer, whether it's a magician or someone else on the theater, invites people to come into a very particular sort of a world that is full of a variety of very specific kinds of rituals. When we are in an audience, there are certain ways in which we are expected to behave. So too, in a worship service, often there are particular ways in which we are expected to behave. And I find that there are a lot of very interesting parallels between the performing arts in terms of theater and what happens during a worship service. And so exploring those links under the rubric of ritual and ritual practices, I find is very compelling in terms of understanding a broader swath of intellectual options.
Kevin Ladd, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon, and congratulations.
Oh, it is my great pleasure, and I thank you very much for this honor and for the vote of confidence and enthusiasm that comes along with it.
We hope to see you one day in Lausanne.
Certainly.
Hopefully soon.
Goodbye. Have a nice afternoon.